What can we say about the full moon? Is that what you asked me?
Yes. What's interesting about the full moon? What maybe is something that the listeners out there don't know about a full moon?
Well, a full moon to me has always been completion.
Yes.
In other words, we're completing one cycle and we're starting to move into a whole new cycle. It's a lot about what this year is about.
Yeah.
This year started out on a 111 type of energy, which is sort of like new beginnings. And then it moved into, when in Asia, when they started into the new animal year, we moved into a new year of a golden rat, and that happens once every 60 years. So, you know, that's kind of profound. Information is moving now so rapidly that, you know, we wake up some mornings and by the time we go to bed, we've learned what it could have taken us before 10 years to learn.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a lot of information people might not know out there. All right. Well, if you want to, let's go ahead and get started on the first topic if you want. What could you tell us about the Akashic Records?
Well, basically, absolutely everything has some kind of a line that runs through what I'd call the Book of Lives. Your Akashic record is something that you have the ability to tap into. It's far more powerful.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, it's far more powerful for you to start learning how to tap into it. That can be as simple as at night when you go to sleep, start to ask for contact with it. If you don't ask, you will not get contact.
Yes, that's what I was just about to say, that everyone can actually tap into these records, right?
Yes, and many times when we get into having relationships with other people, many times those other people start showing up in our dream time, long before we ever cross paths with them in the physical. We interact with them in our dreams.
Yes, yes. That's pretty interesting to me that your dream is like another state of thinking, another state of being, and it's pretty important to me to actually pay attention to my dreams because a lot of times you learn things about yourself. You learn things, perhaps you'll have a vision, something maybe about the future, something about somebody else.
Absolutely.
It's almost like a connection with another world almost.
Well, it's a connection with a higher piece of you.
Yes.
So the Akashic, how can the average everyday person tap into the Akashic somehow or attain the Akashic records? Because
well, the
it's
Akashic
really spoken
records,
about in the Edgar Casey work a lot. So.
Oh, okay. Well, first off, there's different Akashic records. There's Akashic records that pertain to Earth. Then there's galactic records. Then there's records.
Okay.
Then there's records that sit on, say, the 26th dimension. Those are basically the records of the Light Lords and the Light Masters, and of course the Dark Lords and the Dark Masters. Then up past that, there's also another hall of records up in the 56th dimension, and that's as far up as I found them. There are records that are in the Pleiades, in the Palladian light libraries.
So the 56th dimension, this sounds like a specific number to you. Is this like the boundary you came across, or?
I stumbled on it quite by accident. I work with another lady who's quite gifted. She told me it existed there, and of course she could take me up and show me the 99th dimension, and I kind of went, yeah, right. And then she actually took myself and another very, very well-known person on this journey, and we did see the 99th, and we were amazed.
You can't mention this person, huh?
Her name is...
Would you be able to disclose the name of this mysterious person you're mentioning?
Yeah, the girl's name is Melina, and she took Rebecca, who does the Journeys with Rebecca radio show, who's a very, very well-known channel for the Elohim. One night she took the two of us on this journey, and we did it remotely. And
God bless those pagans.
Oh, I don't know that they were pagans.
Oh no, that's just a little funny.
One of the things that I think that a lot of us we need to do is we need to start asking. You know, there's that old saying is, ask and it shall be given to you. And when you don't ask, you know, like it's like your higher self. If you don't ask your higher self to make itself known to you, it respects your free will and doesn't make itself known to you. It kind of sits there with its hands crossed across its chest and waits for you.
Indeed.
Ask and you shall receive, right?
More or less.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this subject right here is always fascinated me. And you talk about the 56th dimension or level, and then you said that you've also visited the 99th level. The levels could be infinite, right?
Well, I have heard that they can go up as far as 3,000, which is pretty far.
Yeah.
But I think that would be into like a whole other world.
Yeah, that would be something that would be very hard to comprehend, especially with just the way that we think. I mean, how do you feel about that, Pete?
It's pretty startling, actually, because the Akashic records is like, supposedly if you're able to tap into your own, you will be able to read how you die. Isn't that correct, Lotus?
Well, every choice that you make alters your final outcome. And not only does it alter your final outcome, but it also alters the collective consciousness.
So I must be misunderstood in this arena, because what I know of it is like an actual, not a book, but a infinite library within the celestial that has everybody's name and all your information in it, and basically from beginning to end, your alpha and omega. So that would conclude that it would show your birth and everything in between and your death in it, wouldn't it?
Well, the Akashic records will show your past, it'll show your present, it will show your moment of now. You can also tap into your future. Okay.
But it won't show actually how you die, is what I was trying to think, because I've heard that and it really freaked me out, because they're like, okay, if you want your Akashic records, you got to be ready to see your fatal demise, or however you're going to pass away. So,
well, that's kind of
I believe that every choice we make in every minute of every day that we're here, it alters the final end.
Yes.
And as other souls make decisions, I believe that we all cross. Like all paths cross somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like how they say that prophecies are malleable.
Yes. For example, if let's say we're doing healing work on a soul, let's say we decide we're going to go back and we're going to look at your past lives in Atlantis. And let's say you were blown up to smithereens in Atlantis. You could have many, many fragmented soul pieces that all need to be brought back to a whole. And then what you want to do is you want to sort them all out, and then what you want to do is you want to reframe it to your present now. You see, you could have multiple timelines. You could have a life being lived right now in the 8th dimension. You could be here in basically what we call the 3rd dimension, but Earth is way more than 3rd dimension right now. Earth is traveling right now between about 5 and about 6th dimension. We're already into the 5th world.
So we're definitely past the 4th dimension then, because I feel that.
Well, the 4th dimension basically is about you being able to experience your energetic energy, meaning when you're in your body, and as you ramp your energy out of your body, okay? For example, if I have my eyes closed and you walk into the room and I sense that you're there, I'm picking you up in your 4th dimension.
Oh, okay.
Okay, which is basically your etheric energy, and what it does is it goes out into the ethers. And I mean, the ethers have many, many layers to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So basically, you can pull energies that are around you, and you can pull them into you, or you can use the energies that are around you to cleanse yourself. You know, like after we've had, let's say, a marvelous storm outside, and, you know, there's been thunder and lightning and all that kind of stuff. There's different things that are floating around in the ethers, and all of these are all energetic things. When you eat, if you eat a plant, will you take on the energies of the plant?
So back on the topic of the Akashic.
Well, basically, it's like thinking of all of your lives all being recorded into a book or a multitude of books. Okay, because you could have an Earth life and then you could have a galactic life.
It's like a library with a bunch of different books. In each section, for the different kinds of books, fiction, nonfiction, horror, science fiction, there's different levels of the Akashic Records. And there's different books in each section for the different lives.
If I was to go in to find my book of life, I wouldn't find just one book of life. I'd find many different types of books of life. Where I found it really interesting when I started to access them was that all of a sudden it would be like movies would start moving in my mind, and it would be like without having to put a DVD into a DVD player, all of a sudden my mind would just start playing, and I would see things happening. And I wondered, like, what is this all about? Because this started when I was about, I guess I would have been about 7 or 8 years old after I'd had a drowning experience. And I just started to see things. And as I went on and on and on, finally I decided to go and get myself certified as a teacher of Akashic Record so that I could teach people how to access their own records. And basically, how do you do it? You get yourself altered. You get in touch with your higher self. Obviously, it can be quite helpful to you. And then basically, the best way to do it is to try to call in the Lords of Akasha.
Okay, you just answered my question. I was definitely going to ask you next, which was the Lords of Akasha. It almost, you mentioned that in the last interview, and it almost sounds like the moderators of the library.
Yes, it would be like going to a very, very high-profile librarian. Okay, and basically you might say, I want to access my lifetimes in Persia, or I want to know what I was doing in Sumerian times, or I want to know what I was doing when I was in Atlantis. I want to know about my third world existence.
That is fascinating. That is fascinating. So how do we go about that exactly?
Well, one of the things that I found is the easiest way to get in touch with yourself is to start requesting that you get contact when you go to sleep at night, and then ask to be able to remember it in your 3D waking hours.
So you're saying, is that right before you go to sleep, or are you saying during sleep?
What I do every night before I go to bed is I ask for my higher self, and I know it by name. I ask it to come and join me as I go into my dream time, and I actually program different things that I'll do throughout the night. I bring in a lot of information in light-encoded languages, so I ask to spend about 30 minutes a night learning light-encoded languages. Then I ask to spend 30 minutes a night learning how to file them so that I can access them when I'm walking around on Earth. Then I ask for essence contact. And what essence contact is that's like I ask for it always at the 9th level. I ask for it always to be in 100% alignment with the Creator's energies. And normally I'll say something like the Creator's. I'll say Mother, Father, God, Goddess, all that is, because I believe that what that will do is that will allow an all-encompassing, no matter what my beliefs are. I've had many, many incarnations. I believe that when you look at things like on the earth, I think that there's a lot of different groups of people that are leading people to the right place. I think they all have one or two pieces of knowledge that's correct. I don't think any one of them have all the answers. But when I do it that way, at least I'm doing it in a way that I'm in 100% alignment with the Creators. And that's where I need to be. I believe that we're all down here, and what we're doing is we're co-creating.
Exactly.
And I think that as one person helps another person, then that person becomes stronger, and they in turn help another person. I was taking in some information the other day, and it was kind of funny, because they kind of led me through the 100 monkey story. Now, whether it was 50 monkeys or 72 monkeys or 50 monkeys, it doesn't really matter. I believe that we're all down here, an assortment of different soul ages, from infant souls, baby souls, mature souls, old souls. And what we're basically here to do is we're here to examine new ways, and we're here to find the knowledge of the ancient ways.
So the 100-monkey effect isn't really something in particular we should be looking at. It's actually just happening throughout the universe, wouldn't you say?
Well, as we pick up different energies when we go out in public, one of the things that I started to notice as I started to ascend a lot is that people would bump into me, and I wasn't used to that. I was used to when I went out somewhere, like people would notice me, and all of a sudden when my vibration hit a certain amount, I found that my vibration, it was almost like I was invisible. And people would walk into you like like you'd be in the lineup at a bank, and somebody behind me would walk right into me, and it was sort of like, what, didn't they see me? And then they'd say, oh, I'm really sorry, and then they would leave this big space around me, and it was like my energy was expanding and getting bigger. And one of the things that I found, if you want to learn about what you are, is learn how to take the energy that you are and bring it inside you and light it up and then move it out. And bring it in and compact it so that it's a nice package of light, and then learn how to start moving it in and out and in and out. And basically as you start to light up, what you'll find is that you'll start to very, very easily be able to move through your physical, emotional, and intellectual bodies. You'll be able to move out into your etheric body. You'll be able to go out into the etheric body, and a lot of people will say, hey, I want to go astral traveling. Well, when you go out on the astral realms have a lot of different areas to them. There's a lot of areas there that you won't want to travel to unless you really know how to protect yourself well. What I found is that the best guides, they're way above those levels. So basically when I want to go out of my body, I go out of my body and I kind of get my body to connect for me. So I connected 6 ways just to begin with, by asking that my emotional, my intellectual, and my physical come together. Then I asked that my etheric, my low astral, and my high astral come together. And then what I do is then I ask to move out into my low causal body, which I would deem that one to be a 7th dimensional type body. That's where a lot of our guides are. And just because we have guides coming to us doesn't necessarily mean that the guides that we have coming to us are good guides. So it's a sorting process. It's always a good idea to create a beautiful, safe space inside of you. And when you want to go and do this kind of work, what you're going to do is you're going to prepare this beautiful, safe place. And a safe place is a good place to have. If somebody riles you up a little bit, you can retreat into your safe place and you can observe what's going on. Okay, before you get into reaction, sometimes silence is a wonderful weapon. If you don't say anything, they don't know what you're thinking. And one of the things in your safe place, and what I did is I erected, like a beautiful waterfall in there. And one of the things that I always do when I turn within is I make sure I go into an area where I have this waterfall come down. And what I use the waterfall to is to cleanse me, like to make me,
like purification almost.
Yeah, if you want to think about it when you get into the shower in the morning, just ask that anybody that's got a cord plugged into you, that it just gets electrocuted. And any cords that are healthy cords will always grow back. But sometimes you get people that cord to you. And they plug in cords, and basically what they do is they zap your energy. So one of the things that you want to make sure is that, it's like your hair. We go and we get a haircut so that our hair looks healthy. It's a good idea to clip and cut cords.
Yes.
Okay, and then that way when we send out cords to different people, what we're doing is we're sending out authentic, pure, beautiful energy that's meant to be sent out. And when the time of an energetic transfer is over, we just stop sending. Okay, but most people don't understand that. And what happens is sometimes I'll go and I'll look at people and they'll just be covered in cords. And it's like you can't even see them for all the cords. So it's it's just little practices that you can do that are going to make a world of difference. If you go to bed at night and you ask that only things from the 7th density and higher can come into you in your dream time, and only those things that are in 100% alignment with the Creator's energy, and you can expand it a little further, and you can say only those things that are in alignment with my mission and my purpose, because all of us have missions and all of us have purposes, and they can change. Because not only when you came into Earth did you prenatally choose what you were going to do, but you also, just because you meet somebody later, you may not have known about that person prenatally, so even all of those agreements can be equally valid. You know, we're continually aligning with different people, we're continually crossing paths with different people, everybody's waking up at different states, and as more and more people wake up, we're starting to see it. You know, you start talking to people, you're in a lineup at the bank and you start talking to some guy, and all of a sudden, you know, the topics on, you know, like anything from ETs to ascension to, you know, like we waste all our time in lineups. You know, I could be doing 101 better things. You know, the list is endless. One thing that I found, and this is something I found very, very recently, if you can set your alarm even 30 minutes earlier than you normally get up, and maybe use some kind of a Zen alarm clock, and keep your eyes closed. Don't open your eyes. Keep your eyes closed. You can often stay with a dream, and you will be amazed at what can be given to you. If you go to bed at night and you ask for essence contact with the people that you're meant to be doing work with on Earth, it will come into you. But you got to ask for it.
Yep, asking is a big key, and you got to be careful who you're talking to, just like what we said last week, and we're saying here again, you got to be careful what you ask for. It's like the genie in the bottle, you know, you let it loose and you ask a question, you got to be careful what you ask for, because you may get something that you don't want.
You may get some demonic, demented shoes that'll be yelling like banshees like that, so.
And also another thing about the Akashic Records, you can also go into the Akashic Records and see your past lifetimes, right?
Yes, you can.
So if you were an Atlantean or Lemurian or an ET of another kind from another star system, you would be able to look at these recorded texts about yourself.
Absolutely, and you'll find that they often dovetail, and another thing they often do is they often come through in triples.
Yes.
For example,
wouldn't you say that you would also see it also?
Yes,
like
it's more of a visual, right?
A lot of them are stored now in holographic type or holograms.
It all depends on how you want to see it, how your mind's eye perceives it, or your spirit would perceive it, your ascended self, in other words.
Yes, different people have different ways of seeing. One thing that is starting to come forward, too, is if you take a look at symbols, and one symbol that's been out there for a long, long time is a pine cone. And a pine cone is the same shape as your pineal gland. And that's in your head. It kind of sits between your right brain and your left brain. And one thing that you can do is you can ask your pineal gland to turn on. And then you can ask it to sync your right brain and your left brain.
Yes, and for the people out there, just in layman's terms, your pineal gland, if you were to look at a two-dimensional drawing of a person, it would be where you would draw your third eye.
More or less, yes. See, the longest road that you'll walk inside you is the road that leads between your high head, or your high mind, and your high heart. You see, some of us, I know myself, before my heart stopped back in October 27th of 2007, I had 200% of my energy in my high head, or in my high mind. And I thought I was in my heart. So it's a trick of learning how to balance or learning how to loop.
And that's what you were talking about on the last show, right?
Oh, we've really got to be in our hearts. I mean, I really thought I was really in my heart. And what I discovered is that, like, I was really a master of my mind. And it was a real brutal awakening.
So it's almost like an ego trip almost. When your ego gets the best of you, then you're not really using your heart. You're
Well, I had all my juice. I had all my juice in my high head. Okay, so the importance of balancing both your high heart and your high head is really, really important.
It's like balancing the yin yang.
A lot of time. If you learn is that as each decision you make, if you want to get in touch with your higher self, it's pretty easy. I mean, what you need to do is as you start to do things, if I sit and I'm sitting here and I say, oh, I want to pick up a magic wand, is that a good idea or not? And start dialoguing with yourself. Yeah, that's a good idea. You know, if you go out shopping and you're walking down an aisle and you say, is this a good product for me to buy or not? Your higher self will start guiding you. But it kind of sits there waiting for you to open a dialogue with it.
Yeah.
So you might as well ask for it at the very highest level that you can. You know, you start to know when you're really, really having essence contact. And where it gets really beautiful is if you are lucky enough to be with another person who also spiritually is turned on, and you start having essence contact with that person's higher self.
Yep.
You know, that's where you can get into, you know, like very, very wild tantric sex and different things like that, because you are not just two 3D beings having sex. I mean, it's like all your bodies are involved.
Well, when you get your spirits involved and your spirits mingle, the sex becomes a lot better than just sex. It becomes a lot more than that.
It's absolutely amazing, because basically what we end up with is we end up with the lowest of highs and the highest of highs.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
But again, the levels that you ask for, those are the kind of levels that are going to come through to you. It's like sitting and thinking about it. It's like you're entering a sphere. And it's kind of like a sphere of completion. One thing that I noticed was interesting is I started drawing up these different maps, and I began to find is that there's a whole lot more than just north or south or east or west. You know, like there's northwest and northeast, and there's different things that you can do in different areas. And basically,
speaking of the full circle, almost the full circle effect.
Yes, because each of them represents something different. If you want to pull in your guides, and you want high-level knowledge guides, like the real old ancients, stand and face north. You know, they sit in the north.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of like the sun rises in the east, and so too do your emotions. They wake up when you wake up, just like your mind kicks into gear. And it's sort of like, what do I really desire? You know, like if you sit and it's just that you want, or you need, you're never going to get to what you truly desire.
Exactly.
So it's a really good idea to sit down quietly and really figure out, what is it that I really desire? You know, like, what is it that would just make me go for 36 hours straight? That's how you know that you're really in a desire.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we're down here to make a trip. And I mean, instead of, you know, I avoid people that are really wanty or you know, like are really needy. But people who really catch my attention are people that have desire, you know, like it's a fire that's within them. I mean,
yes,
you can see it in their eyes.
Indeed, yes.
The passion and motivation that people have.
Yeah, and not only see it in their eyes, when you're around them, you can feel the energy that comes from the vibration.
Yes, and that feeling is definitely a good way to get into the next subject of the ascended, which we were really trying to get out on the last show. We sort of fell off that, so we wanted to get back on the ascended, which really ties into a lot of different entities, gods, spirit beings. How many can you mention, Mel? Maybe 100 different ascended masters.
Yeah, there's just endless amounts of names or labels that you could put on to anything like that.
Yeah, I'm kind of the belief that when we were cast down here in this Earth experiment, meaning the fourth world, which is kind of ended and the fifth world's kind of began, is that it was kind of like a third, a third, a third. I think that a third of the things that were tossed down here had the potential to get up to about the 26th dimension. I think a lot of them are, there's so many different things that can get in your way, from dark lords to dark masters, that can literally stand between you and your higher self. And the only way you get rid of them is you just start demanding and commanding with 100% pure intent that anything that is less than 100% in alignment with who you are and what you are to do, they must leave. And consciously start asking them to leave. And with guides, pull in your guides, and you might not get it the first few times you do it, but if you just keep practicing and asking them to show up in your safe place, sooner or later they're going to start showing up. And when they start showing up, when they start showing up, what you want to do is you want to just make sure that they're in alignment with who you are and what you're doing. A lot of people utilize the technique of channeling or automatic writing, and that's just sort of like putting a pen in your hand and just letting your hand write whatever is meant to be written.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's almost just like writing from the soul or writing from the spirit, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. You'll be amazed at what starts coming through. Sometimes different people, if you look in art, you look in music, is many people, if you watch an artist when they're playing the piano or playing their guitar or doing something like that, you can actually see them move and change and morph. One person that I can think of is a young man that I know from here in Canada. His name is Dr. Draw. And, I mean, this guy, Eugene, he is amazing to watch play. And when he gets playing, I can actually see his face morph. And I was sitting watching him one day, and I actually started seeing his past lives while he was performing. And it was just like, wow, this is like unbelievable. But he was just totally here and there at the same time. And, I mean, it was just a very, very exciting thing to watch, because he pulls on not only his experience in this life, he pulls on his experiences from probably 17 different incarnations he's had, where he's been on many different sides of music.
Yes, and you can do this with anything.
Yeah. Just any type of positive vibration. That's how I'm sure you can achieve that.
As you start pulling up vibration in your own body, you'll find that all of a sudden, let's say you want to sing, and you've got, like these essence twins or these task companions that you've pulled into your circle spiritually. It may not be you actually singing, but your task companion comes into you, and all of a sudden, boom. I mean, you're just like belting it out. And
Carlos Santana is one known for that, where he actually says he could astral project himself over the crowd, like when he's in the zone, you can say.
Oh yeah.
So that is definitely a possibility. And actually, the ancient Indians and the Hindus, with their old chants, were able to do that, and that's probably where it all started, right there. Basically, unlocking chakras through sounds and music.
Well, sound is very old way to unlock anything. Sound is a vibration, and those vibrations are keys that you can unlock stuff.
And you read my mind there, because I actually think they are the keys to life and humanity. And sound has to do with music, obviously, and the notations and the octaves and all that are basically sounds that are being played within the celestial that we are just tapping into. So it's like the Om, like we were talking about before, how that was the alpha sound that started it all. Just off the old Om. If it's done right.
The spheres.
Yeah. I actually want to get deeper into that with you, Mel. that right there, I'm still trying to tap into that frequency, but.
You can play with Om. You can play with A-H. You can play with O, like double O, like a long kind of O. And you can play with Ah.
Om and Ah.
Ah, and then O, and then Ma, Or another thing that some people find very, very powerful, years ago, probably 30 years ago, I did a little bit of studying in something called Huna. And, the Chinese, when they say good, 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 they say ho, ho, ho. So ho, ho, ho isn't just about Santa Claus or bad women.
Yes.
Ho, ho, ho really take you places.
And there's another one, A-U-M, and there's several different ways that you can, sounds that you can make, I should say, that actually, and those sounds don't actually come from your throat. They come from your stomach area.
Your diaphragm.
You have a chakra down there, yes.
Yeah, the diaphragm. And that's where the great singers like Ella Fitzgerald and all of them were taught to sing from, which was from the...
Absolutely.
All the great singers are taught to sing from the diaphragm.
And then another thing that's really powerful, too, is that basically, if you think of it, we have vibrations in us, and we're creatures that are used to using numbers for comparative figures. You can sit and think you kind of like have a 0 point. And through your 0 point, if you think of it, what you're really doing is create a figure 8 over top of that 0 point of view, and all the energies that you're bringing into you, if you think of it almost like a racetrack or a figure 8, you're constantly going out to get them, to bring them in, to internalize them, and to use them, and to let them out. Okay? And to keep it like a closed, protective type figure 8, so that you can always be using these energies and you can expand them. Like you can fill them. One thing is that I believe, this is my own personal belief, is that one of the things that I'm here on Earth to do, and I know the Michael entity said that I would bring through something that was related to light, sound, tone, vibration, and all of that kind of stuff. But if you start to ask your higher self to start reinstalling your vibrations, ask it to reinstall one and to take it, to go out into the ethers, get one, bring it back in, and connect it, and then go out and get 2 and repeat the process. If you go up to about 200, you aren't liable to get sick anymore. Now, another thing that's interesting on vibration, I believe it was, why can I not think of his name? He wrote a book called Power versus Force, and he's a friend of a man I know, Don Smythe. And every single disease that's out there is related to a vibration. And what happens is that we start to lose our vibrations. So if you start asking to reinstall your vibrations, just do a few every day. And before you know it, at the end of a month, if you do 3 a day, you'll have like 90 reinstalled. If you want to know if you're missing any, get a pendulum and say, am I missing any vibrations between 0 and 10?
200?
Between 11, that's too broad of a spectrum. That's way too broad of a spectrum, but just start reinstalling them. Now, you don't want to do too many per day. When you get up to higher vibrations, you can't do as many. Now, that would be what's called a composite. There's what's called also a composite vibration, and different people have different composite vibrations. When I first became aware of it, my composite vibration was about 496. However, when I worked or did healing work, it was between 708 something. Now, my composite vibration most of the time is well over 1,000. Okay, now I'm not a normal like most people. I'm a little tiny bit abnormal. But all of these vibrations are available to all of us. We just have to start asking to install them. And as you start to install them, you'll just start getting brighter and brighter and brighter.
So you mentioned the ether or the etheric realms. Well, would that be the place the ascended masters dwell, or is it a higher realm?
Well, you have to think of it yourself as that you need to get out to a certain level in order for them to really touch into you where you can communicate with them. But if you ask them to come down, they're not going to deny you. You know, it's, again, all about asking.
Yeah,
There are just some of them
intention.
outside. I work with the light Buddha a lot because he's one of my task companions. He's on the Buddhic planes.
So you answer my question there again. Well, what ascended masters have you actually dealt with in your travels?
Well, throughout all my lifetimes, probably all of them. In this particular lifetime, I do a lot of work
in general, ones that you could mention that people might know of, because you have a lot of psychics who claim that they deal with Saint Germain.
I love working with Saint Germain, and I'll tell you why I like working with Saint Germain. He is absolutely magical. He's had some really, really important incarnations where I've worked with him in past lives. His energy is extremely, it's specific. You know, like when he comes...
Saint Germain one of the co-creators of Freemasonry as we know it?
Freemasonry goes back
well, you know, it's
to...
Or was it the Illuminati?
Well, on the
Illuminati are...
I know he had a hand in one of those during his time on Earth.
Yeah, if you look at an old American $2 bill, I believe the man in the hat is Saint Germain.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, I'm corrected. I thought I was totally off there, but yeah, that's it. It could be tied in both ways, negative in the conspiracy or the higher entity in positive realm, of course. But what's your encounters with Saint Germain? Because I definitely wanted to get on a few others that are well known that are heard of, and maybe get a deeper perspective, because what I hear from the other psychics just sound really, to be honest, it sounds real wacky. And the way that White Lotus really conveys her thoughts on these things, it's a little bit more compelling, I would have to say, along with more accurate. So I want to get your perspective on the different ascended masters that you might have came across.
Well, Saint Germain, for me, has come into me and given me a lot of what I would call usable information, meaning information that actually helped me to walk through my bodies.
Vital information, you could say.
And gave me formulas and things like that mathematically made sense. Okay, and gave me actual, like diagrams, and had me work through, everything from all the different shapes and different things like that, and how, in fact, they all did fit together. And
so you could definitely concur that he was a master in geometry then.
Well, I think everything has to do with math and relations.
Yeah,
mathematics is how we create relations. Like if you draw a cross and you want to move around the different areas of the cross, well, I mean, each of them have 90 degrees, so 9 is the degree of completion.
What if we were to mention the Ankh?
Sorry?
How about if we were to mention the Ankh?
Well, the Ankh is
with the yes, the cross with the infinities, half of the infinity symbol at the very top. Would probably be the best way to describe it.
Well, I mean, it was a very, very powerful healing tool.
So that was more of a shaman symbol, you would say.
It was about coming full circle.
Yes.
Of course, you have to take a look at a symbol, and you have to look back in history, and you have to say, well, what exactly were they teaching us? You have to look at what is hidden and what is not hidden, because just knowing a symbol isn't enough. So let's say
you
were trying to learn something.
Good and bad.
So someone said to you, you have to learn how to ascend, and we're going to learn how to ascend through the symbol of an Ankh. Well, basically, you have to have a starting point somewhere in there, but it doesn't say, oh, let's start here and end here. So a lot of the different things were kept hidden because they didn't want the masses or the people to know how to do what they needed to do. And I think that's why Saint Germain has come through to me and has me right now writing a book that's going to give people some pretty simple instructions on how to do things. You see, we're going to have to teach people who are 5 years old before they end up getting into a system that turns them off. The new kids coming into this world right now, it's going to be really, really hard to turn these kids off. I mean, these kids are so brilliant, I can't believe it.
They won't be able to.
I spent about 3 hours this afternoon with my niece who is 12 and my nephew who's 13. And I mean, you don't pull wool over these kids' eyes anymore. These kids are really smart.
Well, there's one thing that a lot of psychics, so quote unquote, will not tell you, and this is I consider it a fact because I live with my spirit. I do everything with my spirit, and that is you are closer to the ascended than you realize. That piece of the spirit that's inside you is ascended itself.
Oh, already. Yes, you already have the onboard equipment.
Yes, you just have to activate it, to use it in your everyday life, and to do what you need to do with it. Write with it, speak with it, listen with it, see with it, eat with it, everything.
Yeah, we also must point out that there is a big difference between the ascended and the average, or the average enlightened human like us, you know, because they are ascended
actually,
and
we're not. You know what? I look at it more like a bar graph. And I sit and I say, well, what would happen if I installed all my vibrations from 0 to 1,000? Where would I be at? Okay? And then the next thing is that what if I learned how to totally walk up through from my original spark and did it properly? Walk through my physical, my emotional, my intellectual, and my etheric, and I walked straight through that low causal and that high causal, and I actually walk through my astral and my high astral, and I actually put my own capstone on, what would happen? And the thing is that right now, people are actually doing that. I'm actually teaching people how to do what I've done. I mean, what I've done is not that difficult. You know, it was like I decided to get quiet and listen and see what was happening. I understood a lot to do with healing energies that were around me, that I do in fact create my own reality. And in saying that, I began to realize that absolutely everything was mathematical. When you start going back, if you want to go back and you want to explore different things, you'll find that certain things, I think it's called the I can't even pronounce it. Is it called the Fibonacci? Help me pronounce it. It's like the shape of a seashell, and it kind of runs through absolutely everything.
Oh, you're speaking of the Nautilus. The Nautilus
golden ratio.
Is it called Fibonacci numbers or some such thing?
Fibonacci ratio. It's the golden ratio. That's
the golden ratio. It runs through everything.
Yes, but that actually ties into the Nautilus shell, which is the ancient crustacean. And when they split it in half, you could actually see the spiral, which also ties right back into our last conversation when we were talking about how the spiral was basically the creation of all. It had to do with this amazing spiral that took place during the Big Bang. But you can see the spiral in everything. So it's definitely a guaranteed factor in what we're saying right now, which is that it ties into the sacred geometry, and we all tie into this collected sacred geometry that's out there. So it's pretty amazing.
We're all a piece of a greater whole.
Yes.
Without a doubt.
That's definitely.
Another thing that I found powerful to do was to start to ask for lifetimes that were running parallel to be reframed to the current life I'm in now, so that there is only one of them.
So when you say reframed, I'm sort of not familiar with that term.
Oh, okay. When I came into Earth with, I guess, a potential for 8D, but I wasn't turned on to 8D.
Is it sort of like a reconstruction of self, or?
I had to learn to walk up and through them again. Basically, what I did is I just started to sit down and write with guides, and I mean, they just started to say, do this, do this, do that.
So these guides you're referring to would also be ascended masters, also, right?
Yeah. Another one that I enjoy working with. I sometimes enjoy working with Archangel Michael. You know, when Michael comes in, you'll know he's there. I mean, it's like his energy takes up a whole room.
And he was the angel in the old ancient pictures.
Yes.
Or the archangel, right? That you're referring to?
Yes.
The Archangel Michael, yes. Wow. So your experiences with Michael, could you maybe elaborate on them?
One of the things that Michael was really, really good was teaching me how to take back the control of my own space. You know, like how to clip cords, how to cut cords. If I had cords I couldn't cut, I would ask him to help me cut them.
So you would say that would be his area of mastery, you would say. Basically, almost therapeutic work he's giving you, it sounds like.
One of the things that a lot of people need to do is we need to start really working with color.
Why is that?
Well, because of the rainbow colors that run through everything.
Yes, yes.
You know, color is very, very healing. You know, we need to pay attention. If you were going to go inside and you were going to paint yourself up with colors, would you go to what's already white, or would you go inside and take a look and see what's dark and start painting in that?
So this sort of ties in with the chakras and the different colors within the chakras.
Well, you have an awful lot of energy centers, but for basics, for somebody that's starting out, yeah, it would be a good idea to take a look and start working with your different energy centers.
So it would be a good idea to start with the chakra energies with concerning the light, and then try to step up to maybe a prism, is what you're saying?
Yes, and if you go back to the old ancient, there was an old ancient scale that was given a long time ago, and to each of it there is a vibration. You know, which proves the theory of vibration.
Yeah.
So we've known this for a long, long time. You know, if you get a set of tuning forks, you could activate a tuning fork, and you could sit on either side of a tuning fork and feel like that vibration. And say, your higher self, install this vibration.
So that would be the same effect if you dowsing rods in crystals, like we were going to segue into later.
Yeah, crystals. I'll give you an example. And my guide's giving this to me, so I don't know whether it's right or it's not. But basically, there's a vibration that might be called, say, La, and that would be love.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you might have a vibration that will turn back on your intuitiveness, sort of that non-linear knowing. Okay.
Would you say that word would have to be evoked in order to translate that vibration you're speaking of the Selah?
Yeah, I think that in the old.
Would you have to actually vocalize it? Is what I'm saying.
It would be, yes, it would be a good idea to find something that would vibrate at that thing. My guide's telling me that if you go somewhere like YouTube and you type in, say, the frequency of 741, okay, it will bring up some kind of a vibration that's already got it recorded, so you don't need to do the work. You could just go to YouTube and listen to it, and all of a sudden you will start getting turned on because that vibration will turn you on. For example, I'm being told in the original one that there was, I believe, six vibrations. Normally there's 7, and I would say the 7th would be 1,000. I don't know, maybe it doesn't have a name. But if you want to work with your whole brain, or you want to work with your crown, or you want to work with your emotions, or if you have emotions that say are crystallized within you, and you want to break them down, what you might want to do is you might want to work with a vibration of, say, 417 is what they're telling me. I don't know if that's accurate. I would have to research that to know if it's accurate, because my forte is not music, but I often do get information that's correct.
So are you referring to actual octaves or the frequency of the octaves?
I think these are frequencies.
Because I know they both tie in.
Yeah, and one of the things. Because
for every frequency there is an octave for that frequency. Or sound, or no.
I think a lot of them, they're like 18 nines, or they're 12 threes, or they could be 15 sixes, and it would expand up and down. So I mean, you could go way further than just the basic original 6. And I would say that it basically, the original one would be taking your 0 point and then working with the U-T-R-E-M-I, Fa, Sol, and La. Okay, now we have music that goes even further than that. You know,
the
like
Sanskrit version of the scale.
And I'm not a music expert, but I know some people can take their fingers and they can spread them across the piano and they can cover 8 octaves, or, you know, like just with their fingers. Maybe.
Have you heard the Sanskrit version of the scales?
Are you talking?
Because they're extremely different than what we know of. And what I feel is that the Sanskrit version has been hidden from us, so we don't find these certain octaves and frequencies. And it goes something like Sa Re Ga Ma Pa Da Mi Sa. Have you heard that?
I've heard of some of them, yes. Some of them you find them in the old Vedic chants and different things.
And it's basically during the old Sanskrit era is when all these chants were coming about, and you hit the perfect segue on the next question I wanted to ask you. You're answering all my questions, but did you happen to have any certain mantras chants that we could do this without all the mathematical equations and whatnot?
I found a lot of times by doing a lot of...
Maybe something that you can share with us, maybe a chant that you might know of, because I really love hearing like the ancient chants that people have and trying to learn them, basically, because there's a lot of power in them. Would you happen to know of any that you might use from the ancients that people might be able to hear? Or I know we're sort of putting you on the spot because it sort of has to do with singing, but
some of them can take you into really, really wild and amazing places. One of the ones that I found to be probably one of the most profound is the 4 who's. You know, like who, but you have to take in really, really deep breaths, so you need to breathe right in.
Yeah.
And then what you need to do is just like, who, and you repeat it like 4 times. But sometimes when you do things like that, it's like you get transported back to a cave in Lemuria.
So it's almost like the sound of a tuning fork almost after it's hit right.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, and when you did that, I can actually feel a certain vibration. So hence the reason I brought up the whole sacred chants and all that, because actually when I hear these things, I actually feel like I'm being upgraded in a way, or my DNA is being manipulated and upgraded in that effect, because it really hits me within the soul, I'd have to say.
We have to start asking for our brains to be reactivated on every level. And we need to ask for it in between time and in between space And anywhere we don't know where to ask for it. You know, if you're going to do some magic and you don't totally know exactly where you want to go with it, I always ask in between time and in between space and anywhere I do not currently know where to ask for it. And sometimes I even will ask to tell me where it is I don't know where to ask for it, because that just gives me more. We interact with absolutely everything. I mean, if we didn't, just in our own physical bodies, I mean, if we didn't have minerals in them, somebody's mentioning this, I think, in our chat room. If we don't have minerals in our body, we're not going to be real healthy. And it's about a totalness of health. You know, it's like a totalness of spirit. It's all encompassing. It's everything. You know, if all you are is just spiritually awake, you are not everything.
I would have to agree with that, yes.
You know, and by working through the different colors mean different things. And I mean, you could expand on color, and you could expand on color, and I mean just one color. We could probably talk for the next 4 years just on one color.
Yeah. You could expand on any topic, any word, any color, any vibration, any sound, anything you see. You could expand on anything and see how it's all connected. That's why when people say, "Oh, we're going nowhere, we're going in circles," that's a good thing. That shows you that everything's connected. If you don't,
that goes back to the oneness again.
Yeah, if you don't come back to a full circle, then you're missing something.
Or it's not within the realms of truth.
Or once you go full circle, then when you go full circle the second time, it's going to be a whole lot easier than it was the first.
Yes. Yeah, I've actually experienced that too.
if you're moving the colors in your body properly and you're spinning them properly, when you go out of your body and then you turn around and you look back down and you look through, you'll see almost like an opalescent type of white. Because that's the color of the vortex of all the colors.
Opalescent. So, sort of like a pearl to it.
It'll have a sheen.
Not exactly white.
And especially if you work with, say, silver. Silver's a very, very good color, I find, to ground with.
Yes, 'cause that's in the middle. That's
a very, very good color to bring in through my crown. And you don't just bring it in through your crown and just push it through the center part of your body. Ask that these colors come out and go around your fingers, your toes, every area of your body. You know, like just fill yourself up with these colors. And you know,
oops, we're getting callers in. Everybody in the chat, thanks to everybody who's tuned in. We got a lot of listeners again. Make sure you call in within 15 minutes. We'll be alerting everybody before then in the chat. But please hold all your questions. Write them down if you have to, because I'm sure you want your answers, and White Lotus has them for you. So, hold on.
Anthea's
old caller.
All right. Anthea in the chat room, she's got a question. Ground with silver with question marks after that?
I've always learned to ground with silver. But it doesn't matter if silver's not the right color for her to ground with. You can ground with other colors. I had a lot of difficulty grounding, and that's why I use silver and gold.
Well, gold can be also used to cleanse your body of toxins and things. I've actually gotten into research about some electricity is good for your body, and gold is good for your body. It helps clear out the parasites, the toxins, and other things. This is why this is how actually jewelry got started. It wasn't a vanity thing. It was something that they used to keep themselves pure.
And we could also mention the mana on that note, where they supposedly ate this sacred food during the ancients that basically kept them or kept their guardians above them, is what you can say. And what I've heard is that it was a mixture of gold particles that they were eating, from what I know of this mana. Have you guys heard of that?
Well, I've heard of the mana.
I use colloidal silvers and I also use colloidal golds.
But have you heard of that term mana from the biblical works of this, I guess, how would you put it
Old
now?
Testament Bible.
Yes, it was basically a godly food is what they called it. And it was meant to keep you safe.
From heaven.
Yes, the manna from heaven. And they actually did research and they found out that it was supposedly they were eating gold. So it definitely ties
I
into what
utilize
you're saying
a
now.
flower essence product called Right Brain, Left Brain, and it has gold, silver, and copper in it. I don't know if the copper's good for everybody. It's good for me.
Really? Yeah, because I know copper isn't too good for the anatomy, but I guess in small doses.
Now, if a person is talking about grounding only of the physical body, which Athena may be talking about, would she be grounding with red and then moving up to orange?
She just says she disagrees with grounding with silver for anybody. Maybe.
Yeah, see, I had a lot of trouble grounding, so what I did is I created a silver seat and kind of put it where I envisioned it going into the ground, and then I kind of envisioned it going all the way down to the core of Earth, like all the way to Shambhala, and that worked for me. And I found many people that I've taught that had trouble to ground by using the silver, then they could see the difference between the silver spiraling up and the gold spiraling down. You know, and then moving those silvers and golds out through the body, I just found that it just worked really, really well. Most people know what silver and gold looks like.
Yes. She says silver is always an angelic color. Brown is a grounding color, the color of the earth.
And most of my guides are ascended masters or angelic presences, so that might be why silver and gold work for me. I believe
back
to work
on
with
that
all
topic,
colors. All colors.
The ascended masters. Could you name any others that people might know of that? Or you could either say the popular ones, but I know of many that are really healers. They're not just psychic witchcraft in the way the psychics portray, because the psychics, like I said before, they really put a wacky twist to all these ascended masters. And from what I hear you're saying, you have a better description or portrayal of them. So, I wanted to bring up Enoch, because he would probably be one of the most latter-day ascended masters, but like you said in the last show, he never actually died. So, have you ever came into contact with Enoch?
Enoch's not one I've ever worked with.
Really?
But I mean, he goes way, way back in time.
Okay, if we go into his transformation to his almighty ascension to Metatron, have you ever dealt with Metatron?
Well, Metatron right now has about 400 different people that are working on Earth, tapping into his energies right now.
Oh, I can totally agree with that, and you can hear it on all the different psychic shows, of course.
And basically, I would consider them to be like pure channels of his energies.
Would you say there is any that might be misinterpreting his work or his being? Because I've heard a lot of them.
You're always going to find that. I mean,
yeah.
Spirits like to have fun. I mean, in the spirit world, every night's Halloween. You know,
yeah.
So I mean, if you don't ask who you're dealing with, I mean, lots of things will come in. I mean, I've had crazy things come in and tell me that they were Mother Mary, and I mean, I know that they definitely were not Mother Mary. But, you know, they have fun with people.
So how do you distinguish?
You ask.
Ask. There it goes again.
Yes,
yeah. Ask.
You ask. You say, if you are not such and such, you ask it 3 times, and if it's not, it normally will leave.
So as for Metatron, what has he ever? Could you expound on anything he's granted you or any knowledge? Because I'm really a student of Metatron, and I really feel he is a real high entity.
The matrix that I'm working in right now is related to Metatron.
Okay.
Many of us on Earth. I mean, there's some people on Earth that have completed Elohim matrices or have completed matrix in the Melchizedek order. You know, I think that we're one of those three.
Okay. That makes sense, yes.
Like I said, I think that everything comes in threes. I think that there's a lot of things that are broken down in 7, and I think there's a lot of things that are broken down in 13. You know, 9 is a very, very powerful number. You know, there's many things that are in 5s and 6s and 11s, and, you know, I mean, like, the numbers run through everything.
And that definitely goes back to the scientifical approach of it, which is using the science, which is math, to approve all this, instead of just
like I believe we're an original spark, and then we go up through 9 expressions of ourself to basically do what I call put on our capstone.
Yes, he talked about that.
Like I look at my 9th density oversoul or essence or monad that's merged with me, and I basically look at it and say, you know, that's sort of like a 9-part completion, but when I add my original spark to it, it's 10. And then where do I go from here? I guess from here I'm going to go into, you know, like a completed soul group of some kind. You know, a lot of people have said to me, well, this is my last incarnation. I probably have a tendency to agree with that. I'm in a grand cycle. I think a lot of us on Earth right now are in 13 grand cycles.
Respectfully, I kind of have to disagree on that. I feel like I've been here for a very long time, and I feel like I come back to help and out of a unconditional love for the people here. I choose, instead of either coming back because I have to or staying there because I have to. I feel there's a choice that you can choose to come back.
Yes, because we make those determinations after we've left. I'm sure when I left my last life, I probably said I wasn't coming back either, and I came back.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like I come back because I feel until there's nothing else to do here, which I don't know how long that will be, I will be coming back to fight for the oppressed, to help people that need help, and to help show people that you are a temple, and that spirit that dwells in you, you know, that's that piece of the Creator spirit there. You can use that. That's really you, not this vessel that's carrying that spirit.
I think that a lot of the original ones are here in this now. That's what I believe.
Yes.
I believe that they're this is the time for many of them to really, really start waking up.
Mm.
And it's going to be like the light bulbs are going to go on and they're going to go, wow, why didn't I see that?
Mm-hmm.
So you said you often work with Buddha a lot. How is Buddha in this etheric realm that you're speaking of? What type of entity is he?
I started asking who my task companions were in healing. And, you know, I kind of was guided by a guide that I needed to go to the Buddhic plains and I needed to go visit something. And when I took my first trip there, it was really wild because all that I was in front of was this huge being of light. Like, it was just the most amazing light that you could imagine. And it was sort of like, well, like I thought I was going to, like, see, like, Buddha, but I saw it in lights. And it was just absolutely powerful. And what happened is it gave me this opal-shaped, it was almost like a marble. And I felt like it pushed it right into my third eye. And then I began to find that during the day I could feel this, or I could see this light, and it would just move around, and I started to play with it. And then different times when I was doing healing work for different people, I would just tap into that energy level. And I would find that energies would start flowing to me that I couldn't explain. And when you channel stuff, you move to the side. So when you move to the side, it's like physically you're still there, but it's like a whole different avenue of you open up.
Yeah, so that's wild too. Just to really think about that.
You know,
but,
so real power in a way is total surrender.
Sort of giving your
much
all
gathering more. It's like if I just move off to the side and just allow these beautiful energies to start coming in, and start working with different things. Like one thing that can be a very, very powerful thing to do is right now we have a full moon, and to take your two palms and your wrists and put them together and aim your hands up towards the moon. And right now the moon is sitting like where I'm sitting talking to you right now. I'm fully illuminated.
I was actually doing that yesterday.
And as I look at the moon, start to practice seeing the aura around the moon. I mean, like right now, the aura around the moon is bigger than the moon.
Yes, it is.
And start to bring those energies into your hands, and then catch it like a bowl, and then move those energies around into your auric field. You know,
almost
there is so much
good
beauty.
Feng
You know,
shui
they tell us to stay out of the sun, but you know what? A little bit of sunshine is real good for us.
Oh yes. I get out when I can. That's for sure.
You know, the skies are continually moving, and and we move with the skies. We really need to pay attention to everything that's around us.
Yeah.
You know, some of the different major companies that are out there, they even break down their days by 7. You know, you've got to start paying attention to a lot of the master numbers. You know, there's 7 different ways that souls express themselves on Earth. You know, like they express themselves as scholars or priests or kings or artisans or servers.
And can also be a mixture of more than one.
Well, you know, you might be a sage. You have there are 7 different ways that your soul is cast and 7 different roles that you play. And it doesn't deviate. In order to become a master, like myself, I'm a king cast sage. Okay, my essence twins and task companions are priests.
Wow.
You know, the priest energies, when they come in, they're distinctly different than that of a king or that of a sage. You know, my role on Earth is more like a sage. But when I step into my essence, which is more of a king, it's not as much fun as the sage. And we did it remotely. And
God bless those pagans.
Oh, I don't know that they were pagans.
Oh no, that's just a little funny.
One of the things that I think that a lot of us we need to do is we need to start asking. You know, there's that old saying is ask and it shall be given to you. And when you don't ask, you know, like it's like your higher self. If you don't ask your higher self to make itself known to you, it respects your free will and doesn't make itself known to you. It kind of sits there with its hands crossed across its chest and waits for you.
Indeed.
Ask and you shall receive, right?
More or less.
Yeah. Well, this subject right here is always fascinated me. And you talk about the 56th dimension or level, and then you said that you've also visited the 99th level. The levels could be infinite, right?
Well, I have heard that they can go up as far as 3,000, which is pretty far.
Yeah.
But I think that would be into like a whole other world.
Yeah, that would be something that would be very hard to comprehend, especially with just the way that we think. How do you feel about that, Pete?
It's pretty startling, actually, because the Akashic records is like, supposedly if you're able to tap into your own, you will be able to read.
First off, there's different Akashic records. There's Akashic records that pertain to Earth. Then there's galactic records. Then there's records.
Okay.
Then there's records that sit on, say, the 26th dimension. Those are basically the records of the Light Lords and the Light Masters, and of course the Dark Lords and the Dark Masters. Then up past that, there's also another hall of records up in the 56th dimension, and that's as far up as I found them. There are records that are in the Pleiades, in the Palladian light libraries.
So the 56th dimension, this sounds like a specific number to you. Is this like the boundary you came across, or?
I stumbled on it quite by accident. I work with another lady who's quite gifted. She told me it existed there, and of course she could take me up and show me the 99th dimension, and I kind of went, yeah, right. And then she actually took myself and another very, very well-known person on this journey, and we did see the 99th, and we were amazed.
You can't mention this person, huh?
Her name is...
Would you be able to disclose the name of this mysterious person you're mentioning?
Yeah, the girl's name is Melina, and she took Rebecca, who does the Journeys with Rebecca radio show, who's a very, very well-known channel for the Elohim. One night she took the two of us on this journey.
How you die. Isn't that correct, Lotus?
Well, every choice that you make alters your final outcome. And not only does it alter your final outcome, but it also alters the collective consciousness.
So I must be misunderstood in this arena, because what I know of it is like an actual, not a book, but a infinite library within the celestial that has everybody's name and all your information in it, and basically from beginning to end, your alpha and omega. So that would conclude that it would show your birth and everything in between and your death in it, wouldn't it?
Well, the Akashic records will show your past, it'll show your present, it will show your moment of now. You can also tap into your future. Okay.
But it won't show actually how you die, is what I was trying to think, because I've heard that, and it really freaked me out, because they're like, okay, if you want your Akashic records, you got to be ready to see your fatal demise, or however you're going to pass away. So,
well, that's kind of
I believe that every choice we make in every minute of every day that we're here, it alters the final end.
Yes.
And as other souls make decisions, I believe that we all cross. Like all paths cross somewhere. What can we say about the full moon? Is that what you asked me?
Yes. What's interesting about the full moon? What maybe is something that the listeners out there don't know about a full moon?
Well, a full moon to me has always been completion.
Yes.
In other words, we're completing one cycle and we're starting to move into a whole new cycle. It's a lot about what this year is about.
Yeah.
This year started out on a 111 type of energy, which is sort of like new beginnings. And then it moved into, in Asia, when they started into the new animal year, we moved into a new year of a golden rat, and that happens once every 60 years. So, that's kind of profound. Information is moving now so rapidly that, we wake up some mornings, and by the time we go to bed, we've learned what it could have taken us before 10 years to learn.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of information people might not know out there. All right. Well, if you want to, let's go ahead and get started on the first topic if you want. What can you tell us about the Akashic Records?
Well, basically, absolutely everything has some kind of a line that runs through what I'd call the Book of Lives. Your Akashic record is something that you have the ability to tap into. It's far more powerful.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, it's far more powerful for you to start learning how to tap into it. That can be as simple as at night when you go to sleep, start to ask for contact with it. If you don't ask, you will not get contact.
Yes, that's what I was just about to say, that everyone can actually tap into these records, right?
Yes, and many times when we get into having relationships with other people, many times those other people start showing up in our dream time, long before we ever cross paths with them in the physical. We interact with them in our dreams.
Yes, yes. That's pretty interesting to me, that your dream is like another state of thinking, another state of being, and it's pretty important to me to actually pay attention to my dreams, because a lot of times you learn things about yourself. You learn things, perhaps you'll have a vision, something maybe about the future, something about somebody else.
Absolutely.
It's almost like a connection with another world, almost.
Well, it's a connection with a higher piece of you.
Yes.
So the Akashic, how can the average everyday person tap into the Akashic somehow, or attain the Akashic records? Because
well, the
it's
Akashic
really spoken
records,
about in the Edgar Casey work a lot. So.
Oh, okay. Well,